The ongoing saga surrounding Albert the Alligator actually started back in 1990 when Tony Cavallaro of Hamburg purchased the then 2-month-old reptile at a show in Ohio. They lived together for 30 years until 4 months ago. On March 13th, the State Department of Environmental Conservation seized the gator. Now, he was initially sent to Massachusetts, but for the past 2 months has been here at a place in Texas called Gator Country. The state DEC said Albert was placed there because Gator Country can address the animal's specific medical needs. His owner, Mr. Cavallaro, has consistently denied that Albert was in any way mistreated or that he was in poor health due to his living conditions in Hamburg. Well, now he has filed a lawsuit, specifically an Article 78 petition, asking a state Supreme Court judge here in Erie County to return his pet. The suit says, quote, "It is clear that denial of my license and seizure of the alligator after more than 30 years shocks one's sense of fairness, and the determination revoking my license should be annulled."
He was stolen from me. He was kidnapped from me. It was so unjust how they went about everything. Why couldn't they come and talk to me about the whole thing? I don't understand anything of how they handled this.
That was Tony back a couple of months ago. Peter Kushonian and Mike D'Amico are the attorneys representing Anthony Cavallaro, and they join me here live tonight. It's great to see both of you. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Peter, let me start with you on the law here. This is the petition, and for folks who don't know, I mean, it's called an Article 78. I mentioned there. It's actually kind of in first person. It's Tony's narrative about what happened. What is the law here in terms of what you're seeking and how this is going to play out?
Well, what we're doing is we're seeking the court to review the determination of the DEC to not renew Mr. Cavallaro's license to have the animal. That's the basis of the lawsuit, and the proper procedure for that is that section of the law is CPLR Article 78.
And so, fill me in a little bit on what you think did not happen properly here. How did the DEC misstep in how they went about doing this?
Well, first, they never actually issued a denial until after they took the animal, number one. Number two, their basis for saying the license shouldn't be renewed was that the enclosure was not sufficient enough to keep the public from contact with the animal, which is simply untrue, and it doesn't have a basis in fact, which is the first point of the Article 78 petition.
Mike, let me ask you, people have strong opinions about this case. We've seen an outpouring of support. There have been fundraisers. People have signed petitions to order the DEC to return the animal. Fill me in on how you got to the point now, after several months, to where you wanted to actually go to court and ask a judge to step in here.
Well, we needed to make sure that he was not going to be charged with any violations of any DEC regulations, and he was not. So then it came to the point where they took the animal from Tony. They brought him to Beaumont, Texas, without merit, in our opinion. So that's how we got to this point. We knew this was the vehicle we were going to take was going to be an Article 78 to get Albert back to Tony.
And so, fill me in on how, Peter, this is going to play out. Has this been assigned to a judge, and do you go in and do you make arguments, and is the DEC there to say, no, here's why you shouldn't do this? How will this play out?
Yes, it's been assigned to a judge, and we've just received a return date. The DEC will have an opportunity to respond to those papers, and then we'll appear in front of the court and have our oral argument, and the court will make a decision.
How quickly does the DEC respond?
The court date, I believe, is August 22nd, so they'll have until then to respond, until a few days before then. If they need more time, I mean, everyone's pretty nice in the legal field, and we would give it to them if they requested it.
I should point out to our viewers, I did reach out to the DEC today. It's always standard procedure with any level of government when there's pending litigation. We don't get a comment from the DEC, but we did ask them, and we were told we'll have to wait until they get their legal documents filed, and then we can update everyone on their side of this. Mike, I want to play something. I played a little bit earlier from back in May of what Tony told our Leah Lando. I want to share a little bit more about what he said a couple months back. Listen to this. Sure.
We're thinking about going down there to see him, but I'm really worried about that because when he sees me and I'm going to have to leave him, it's going to probably cause him even more trauma. I don't know. Because I know he misses me.
And so, Mike, first of all, has Tony been able to go down to Texas? Would he even be allowed to see the alligator? And then tell us his sort of state of mind. I mean, I've read quotes from Tony. I talked to him once. A bunch of my colleagues have talked with him. Just the stress and the anguish that all of this is placed on him.
And there's a ton of stress and anguish. He wants to desperately go and see Albert, and he's talked to me about that, going down to see him. He's concerned, however, that if he does see Albert and Albert sees him, because they have a 30-plus year relationship, that how that would impact Albert. And Tony's shared with me on other occasions and other news venues that when he's been away for a period of time, Albert gets upset.
Like on vacation over the years.
Like he misses him. So he's concerned that if he goes to see Albert and then has to leave him, that might impact him, which he's already probably impacted Albert, meaning emotionally, because it's his owner for 34 years.
Yeah, 30 plus years is a long time. Peter, how do you respond? Because we've obviously heard from folks, some who questioned if your client would face potential criminal charges like endangering the welfare of a child or something like that. How do you respond to people who feel like he may have put people in danger by having this 750-pound pit?
Well, he didn't put anyone in danger because it was enclosed and kept the public away from the alligator. So it was not only a safe enclosure, but it had been approved by the DEC every time he renewed his license over the last 30 years on an annual basis. So I think that's proof that it was perfectly safe.
And part of what is spelled out in this petition kind of goes through the chronology of all of this, right? Like, here's how it worked for 30 plus years, and then all of a sudden something changed. Do you have a theory, Mike, on what changed and why the DEC sort of abruptly changed its posture and how it was dealing with this?
No, but what I can tell you is that it changed, and Tony said, I will do whatever I need to do to keep my license proper. And they didn't respond.
It sounded like you wanted to jump into when I asked your colleague about folks who believe he may have put people in danger.
He was not charged with anything regarding putting people in danger or maltreatment of Albert at all. The only thing, if I'm not mistaken, Peter, is that they said the enclosure was not proper. So if they thought he was not treated properly or unhealthy, I would have thought that that would have been in their denial of his permit, and it's not.
Again, we'll get a response from the DEC in court documents in the few seconds I have left. Are you confident you're going to win this? And if so, do you anticipate that immediately the alligator will be brought back to Hamburg?
Well, we're confident in the lawsuit, but it's just a determination to annul the decision regarding the license. Then if that is annulled and he's found and the license is reinstated, then there'd have to be additional proceedings to try to actually get the animal back. That's just a determination on the license.
So this could still take a while to get fully resolved. Peter, Mike, the attorneys for Tony Cavallaro, who had his pet alligator seized after, as you heard there, more than 30 years down in Hamburg. Thanks to both of you. Please keep us apprised.
Thank you, Mike.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.